Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, Alana C. Marks. And she's here to share with us her award-winning book, Bugs in My Tummy. Could one children's book spark lifelong healthy habits? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Alana C. Marks discovered a love for writing as an adolescent when she began writing a pen pal. One pen pal soon grew to a multitude as her letters spread to friends near and far. When her children were born, her nightly storytelling talents blossomed, and from that ritual, her first novel, Unbroken Bones, was born. Writing is Alana's hobby, which she does in her spare time between managing her business and traveling abroad. She's a sucker for a quiet walk or bike ride down a lonely forest trail, which always seems to soothe her soul and ignite her imagination. So welcome to the show, Alana C. Marks.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your new book. What inspired you to write this?
Well, I work in healthcare, a dietitian, and so that's one of the things that are always highlighted: washing your hands. And then I love working with children, and very often when it comes to eating, children don't wash their hands after they've played outside or whatever they're doing. So this story came to mind as a fun way to kind of encourage children to wash their hands. And then also with my background, I found that it was another fun way to talk about, how there's like bacteria in our tummy and there's good and there's bad bacteria. So taking like a very big concept and kind of breaking it down for children to understand. So it was a nice combination of the two. And I was really excited to write it.
Well, it's such a great book. Can you share a little bit about the book with us?
Yes. So this book is, it kind of takes the child from talking about bugs, and talking about like the size of bugs. And, when we use the word bugs, of course, there's like bigger bugs that you can really see, like crickets. And then there's tinier bugs like ants. And then there's very tiny bugs that we can't even see with our naked eye. So that's basically how the book begins. It just kind of categorizes the sizes of the bugs. And then it brings the child down to, well, there are things that we cannot see. And so we actually need something to help us see it. So it does introduce a big word, and it also introduces like a health professional in that scene. And then we take that into, well, there's good bugs and there's bad bugs. And then this is the role of good bugs. And I think this is really important for them to understand too. And it's like a big concept because sometimes us as adults don't actually understand the microbiota of our bodies and how, those bacteria play different roles in our health. I think people are starting to become more aware of gut health and the tremendous impact it has on their overall health, for chronic disease, inflammation, and things like that. And so right here, we're beginning that education talking about the benefits of the good bacteria and bugs and the roles that they play in terms of manufacturing vitamins like vitamin K. So we say some bugs can, make vitamins that can help us to stop bleeding. And then we talk about bugs in food that help to break down fiber, which is another great concept in terms of health and nutrition. So, eating foods that are high in fiber, we have bugs that actually can break that down, but then the role of fiber in terms of our overall health. So we get a little clip into some good foods that are high in fiber in this story. And then it takes us into talking about the bad bugs and the potential effects that can have if you get too many in your system. And if there is an overbalance of one, the bad bugs versus the good bugs, and the impact can be diarrhea. We don't say it like that, but we say that, you might be on the toilet or you might even, vomit or throw up. And so we're talking about like, and this is again coming through like a foodborne illness. This is very common, where you would throw up, have diarrhea, etc. So we try to break it down again so they can kind of understand you get sick and nobody wants to be sick. And then we kind of tie it all together and we go into the importance of hand washing. And not only do we talk about the importance of hand washing in the book, we also have a little on the last couple of pages, like how to wash your hands. And so you want to put soap and you want to lather it and you want to sing a little song to make sure that you're kind of scrubbing your hands for the length of time that's needed. And then you rinse your hands, etc. So we kind of take that child through the wonder of bugs, recognizing there's something in their body that can play both good and bad roles, and then how they can protect their body by washing their hands. So the, that's a summary or a rundown of the book.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I know you've kind of touched on this a little bit about the importance of teaching children about germs, but you made it in such a fun and approachable way. Was that the intention for writing the book?
Oh, yes, definitely. You know, kids, they will do things when they understand why it's important. I think when you sit and you talk to them and you're like, oh, well, there's germs on your hands and you don't want to get a sick belly. So that was the intent, is just being able to break it down in a way that they understand why hand washing is important and it's something that they should do. So yeah, the illustrations brought the book to life, really. Obviously the words are there, but when you see those pictures and when kids see those pictures, because they're very visual, they can really relate to the storyline. So yes, that definitely was the intent, to be able to break this concept down so kids can recognize the need to do something very simple.
Well, and I love how you use the word bugs to represent germs. Can you share about that with us?
Yeah, so I did have to, take a moment and or a couple of moments to really think how I was going to express this thought, because obviously using big words like bacteria or viruses, they wouldn't be able to relate to. And I didn't want to like categorize it in a way that was inaccurate, but germs seemed like a really good fit, or bugs, I should say, a really good fit so that they can understand that. And as they get older, obviously, they will come to learn more of the terminology and the more complicated terminology or the more difficult words and what that means. But at their age range, I think bugs was the most accurate way to relate germs to them.
So, what age group is this book intended for?
So really the very young, we're talking about toddlers around 2 to 3 up to 6 year old, I believe will really kind of identify with the book and with the visuals. So that really was that age group. And, as a mom of two, that was something that, I love doing with my girls. Like library day was almost like a holiday, even though we did it very frequently. But my girls loved reading, and that was something that I instilled in them very young. And we would go to the library just to look at the big picture books and sit and read. And so, yeah, I really, really wanted to kind of bring that out and bring that whole experience where kids would be able to relate to the storyline, see the big pictures, and, just kind of have a good experience with it all.
Well, you're right that the illustration does bring this book to life. Can you share about the illustrator and your collaboration?
Yes, yes. So Um, I was, I actually had chosen a different artist for the book, and they, of course, gave me a sample of their work, and um, I didn't completely like it. And so, unfortunately, I went looking for another type of illustrator, and I ran across Nor and her work, and she was just an amazing person to work with. So, when you begin working with somebody for a book like this or any book, it's real important to be able to communicate well with that person. They have to kind of see the vision of what you have in your head. So you have to really kind of communicate that. And then whatever you have in your head, a good illustrator is just going to elevate that. And it's just going to make it better than what you even imagined it would be. And I really got that with Narzaki. She was just incredible. She, took the ideas that I had, and then she just brought it out in such a wonderful way. Obviously, she's a talented and gifted person, as you can see her artwork. But she's also just a very personable person, very easy to work with, extremely professional. And so that really made the process a lot better. And, finding not just an illustrator, but a friend is always a good thing.
She did such a beautiful job on the book. It's stunning. It comes together very nicely. You could tell that the both of you worked so well together. What role do stories like this play in children's health education?
Well, I think it plays an important role. The earlier that we get kids thinking about their health and their wellness, I think the better, especially, the climate that we have today in healthcare and all the health problems that we have, just not non-communicable disease, which this book is really, attached more to communicable diseases, that can get you sick by touching and things like that, but also just a chronic disease. And I think this whole spectrum of health and wellness really needs to be emphasized as early as possible because those effects begin, especially with chronic disease, those effects begin. And of course, with, communicable diseases, we know that kids can get sick very quickly. And when they're that young, their immune systems are not as strong. They're always at risk, or at higher risk for becoming very ill. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect our children from as young all the way through adulthood. So I think it plays a very, very important role. And this whole topic of health and wellness, I think, just needs to be emphasized more and more in school.
And what a great way to do this by having bugs in my tummy to start with.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think, like I said, it's just a great opportunity at this very young age for parents also just to connect with their kids with a good storybook. And, in my writing, I've always tried to incorporate some lesson. And talking to my kids, they will tell you, like, everything was like a life lesson. They'd read a book and I'm like, oh, what were the life lessons? What did you get out of it? So, even at this early age, there is that lesson in there. And, this lesson is so important because it's going to carry them through their life. The importance of hand washing is always going to be there, not just as for children, but also for us as adults to the time that we die. So getting started at this early age, I think is very important and helping them to become aware of the importance. Also, like I said, just having another book out there that helps parents to communicate these important health habits is also very good.
Can you share a favorite scene or illustration from the book and why it's so meaningful to you?
Oh, sure. So, one of the pages that I absolutely love the most is the first page with that wonder on the boy's face. I just thought that was just such a wonderful way to open the book. Him looking at this bug on his hand, and it's a little ladybug, and just kind of looking at it, not just with curiosity, but kind of like, that surprise look, like, oh, wow, a bug. And then, like, the expression kind of takes you into the story because it's like, did you know? And you could see on his expression, it's also a learning moment for him. Like, wow, look at this. Did you know that there's like bugs in my tummy? So that very first picture, I love it. Tool to help them to learn about washing their hands, about, like I said, bugs and germs and food foods. I mentioned apples and oatmeal. And so, this would be ideal for educators working with young children to be able to bring these concepts to them in the classroom or in the daycare, wherever they're working with them. and, just to have this fun way to illustrate the importance of washing your hands. So I think this, and when I wrote it, I wasn't thinking specifically. I was thinking more like parents, because that's kind of like where I was in terms of sitting down and reading, a book with their child. And of course, this is very young when they're 2 or 3 years old, but it is a great introduction. And I think these concepts kind of, when you start them early, that they can continue as you continue with your education and in the school system. So I really hope that it does get into the schools and gets into the nurseries, and that parents will pick it up as, one of the books that they will enjoy with their children time and time again. And that helps to emphasize, a very important part of our hygiene.
Well, it's such a great book, and I just love how it all comes together. I understand that this is not your first book. You have a couple others too.
Yes, I absolutely do. So, I actually was working on my other book. So it's a Christian fiction, so something completely outside of the category of a children's illustrated book. But I was actually first working on my this trilogy, and it's called Unbroken Bones. And as I said, it's a Christian fiction, and obviously this was a lot more time in terms of there are two pretty big books there, and they're 300, 400 pages. But in the middle of all this, I was like, well, I have these children's stories. So I had written these children's stories a couple of years ago. And then, life happens and you forget. And I was unpacking or rearranging some stuff one day. And then I ran across my folder. And I'm like, wait, I'm working on publishing, my Unbroken Bone series. But let me work on this as well. And so it was just kind of like an exciting little opportunity because, like I said, the Christian fiction, it's very long and lots of editing. And, this was kind of like a little bit easier to tackle and to work at getting published, and very exciting to be able to put something out there that was very different from what I was working on at the time. So, yeah, I have Unbroken Bones, and it's kind of like mystery, adventure. It's targeted to young adults, but many adults have read it and loved it. So, young adults to adults. And that is something else that I have written and enjoyed. So,
Where can our listeners connect with you and learn about all of your books and be part of your community?
well, the best way is to my website. It's www.alanacmarks.com. And that would be the best way to connect with me. I also have Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram. And those two areas are probably the primary areas. I also have Facebook, actually. I have an email. They can email me if they want to talk to me specifically about anything. So, yeah, those are the best ways to connect with me.
Well, Alana, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Alana. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your award-winning children's book, Bugs in My Tummy. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.